My name is Araceli Balderas, and today I'm going to be sharing with you my occupation-based kit. What I decided to go for was a handwriting kit, and what I really appreciate about this sort of kit is that you can use it for numerous types of populations. So if you're working in a pediatric setting or if you're working in a geriatric setting, handwriting is good for all kinds of ages. Handwriting in the OTPF4 is acknowledged as an instrumental activity of everyday living, but it is important to note that occupations promote and support each other. Therefore, handwriting can also support education, which is known as activities that help learning and participating. And handwriting can really assist in having, let's say you're in pediatrics, it can really help kiddos interact, build their confidence, participate. So again, this kit, handwriting specifically, can just help a numerous amount of diagnoses. And for example, it can help with cerebral palsy, autism, CVAs, a lot of motor deficits. These are just a few. So handwriting is it's really universal for any kind of deficit that you can probably see in settings, clinical settings. Not only does it help with motor deficits, but it builds confidence, as I said, and it also can help cognitive function. So we're going to go ahead and we're going to dive into what we have in the kit. So we have 2 whiteboards, and we also have some dry erase markers. Now, as you can see here, I have the different colored ones, but you can use just like a regular black marker. I know that in a pediatric setting, sometimes if you want to get kids to engage a little bit more, they're gonna love these vibrant colors. So these can be used as a grade up and grade down. So I'll come back to these. Let me show you one of the things that I think is really important to have in a handwriting kit. This is going to be a manuscript notebook. Basically, as you can see, it has, let me just open it up for you. So as you can see, it has the dotted lines in between the solid lines. So this can be used for a grading up. So let's say you're working with somebody, with your client, and you have them trace the letters, and if you want to make it a little bit harder, if they're getting it and you want them to kind of be challenged a little bit, this is a blank sheet of paper, and you can have them kind of start it on their own. The lines are still there, that way they can have like a starting point. But if you even wanted to grade this up even more, you can even provide a blank sheet of paper, for example, like a printer paper, so that has like no lines. That way they decide where to start, things like that. So this is really good to have because you can do numerous grading up and grading down with this. Whiteboards, I'm going to be using these for grading down. So let's say you handed your client this activity and you started noticing that they were having trouble remembering the lines of the specific letters. They didn't know where to start. They were just kind of struggling. This is where I would pull out my whiteboard. So you can see here that I have 2. One is going to be for me, and then the other one is going to be for my client. We have the dry erase markers. So we have these thicker ones that if you can tell that if you grip it, it's a lot easier to grasp. But I also have smaller dry erase markers just to kind of give them options and different feels for different writing utensils. So this is a smaller one. But basically what I would do is if they were having trouble starting specific letters or writing, I would have them go through it with me. So while I'm doing it, it's kind of like a tutorial almost, where they're doing it with me as I'm going along. If I wanted to grade this up, take away my whiteboard, and I would have them walk me through how they would write specific letters or even sentences. You can even use these to draw pictures. So that's good for a lot of stuff. Another thing that I have in my kit are going to be regular sized crayons, multiple different colors. We have jumbo crayons, which are also scented. We have scented markers, and we have regular markers that are not scented. Then in my little baggie, we have a sharpener, which if you're working with somebody in an educational based environment, you can totally use this to help kind of grade up and help with specific dexterity skills, gripping. So this is really good to have. I also have an adaptive type of equipment. So this, let's say you're noticing that your client is having trouble gripping the writing utensil. All you have to do is pull this out, and then you would stick whatever you're using in here, and it provides a much thicker, easier type of surface to grip. You can always use that. I have regular pencils in here because, again, if you're trying to work on somebody in an educational setting, they're going to most likely use pencils like this. Regular pens as well. As far as the markers go, so for grading up and grading down, we can provide a sheet of paper where they're using markers instead of just a pencil. Again, thicker. These are non-scented, but if you're in a, let's say you're working with pediatrics, the scented can maybe help promote the student and really help them get engaged, because sometimes it might be a little hard to get them to focus, but with scented markers, I think kiddos would love that. If somebody has a sensory deficit and the sense is too much, we can always switch back to regular markers. Writing as well, if you're using the pencils to write on the manuscript, and to grade up, you can switch to a marker. That way they see the different types of pressures that they have to put. If you're using a pencil, you're probably going to have to write a little bit harder on the manuscript. That way the writing shows up. If you're using a marker, you're going to have to do it a little bit more lighter, because if you push down on it, it might really bleed through the sheets. Just stuff like that. Crayons, grading up and grading down as well. If a student is struggling gripping the crayons, the smaller crayons, we can switch to the jumbo ones, and again, they're thicker. They provide more of an easy grip if they're just having trouble with the skinny ones. Or you can switch the rolls as well if they're having trouble with using the jumbo ones, because, you know, maybe they're struggling pressing down on the sheet of paper. You can use the smaller ones as well. So I believe that is it for my kits. Thank you so much, and there you go.